What is up, everybody? Welcome to Talkin BS. I'm your host, Stefan Zamora. You can follow me on Twitter at ZamoraBSB. Today, I'm doing another preview of the offseason for another lottery team. This time, we got the second worst team in the NBA, the Washington Wizards. So in this episode, I'm going to be covering everything from trades to free agency to the draft and the number 2 overall pick. Different ways to improve this roster, some of the must-dos that Washington's going to have to take care of, and all the tools that they have in their arsenal to improve this roster for the 2024-2025 season. So if you're a Wizards fan, I know I'm probably new to you, but if you can, please like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this. I'm going to try to keep it short within like 15 minutes for you guys. A lot of cool graphics and everything for you. So if you can, please like and subscribe, and it really helps the channel out, and I appreciate you guys so much. So let's get into it. So some of the biggest weaknesses that the Wizards need upgrading, most of them are on the defensive end. They were 30th in opponents' points per game. They're 30th in opponents' points allowed in the paint. 30th in rebounds allowed per game, 29th in rebounding, 26th in opponent effective field goal percentage, 30th in opponent shooting percentage, and 29th in opponent field goal attempts per game. So pretty much everything is on the defensive end for the Washington Wizards. That's going to be our main focus in this episode today. So some things that the Wizards have in their arsenal to get better. They do have that second overall pick, but they also have the 26th overall pick in this year's draft. They could have up to $28 million in cap space. They do have Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole as tradable assets. So a couple veteran guys that they have on their roster that a lot of other teams might covet. Tyus Jones could be used in a sign and trade. They also have 10 tradable first-round picks. These are some must-dos that the Wizards need in order to build this team back up from the ground up. They need to create a solid foundation. Okay, so that means enough with the retooling and all that stuff. You got the second overall pick, use it and build this team the right way from the bottom up and really start this thing the right way. Find an identity. This starts with a head coach, right? Most Wizards fans believe that they've already found their head coach. I forgot what his name is, but find an identity. Add young talent that could possibly be a core. Detroit has a core of Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Asor Thompson, and Jalen Duren, right? They have a bunch of lottery picks that they accumulated over the years. Washington doesn't really have that. They have Bilal Coulibaly, and that's pretty much it. Explore what you can get for the vets on this team. Like I said, see if you can get anything for Jordan Poole. See if you can get anything for Kyle Kuzma. So as you can see here, we got 3 different mock drafts, one from CBS, one from Tankathon, and the big one in the middle is the Ringer. The Ringer, you'll see there's comps for every player. And as you can see, there's not a lot of star potential in this draft. There's a lot of like good role players in this draft for sure. With some of them have the potential to be stars, I believe. And with that second overall pick, I think that's what Washington should really be looking for, is that next star player and somebody that they can build around for the future. With that second overall pick, if I was Washington, I would go for this guy, Stefan Castle from the University of Connecticut. 6'6" with a 6'8" wingspan, averaged 11 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, and almost 3 assists per game on 47% field goal percentage, 27% from 3, and a 1.9 assist to turnover ratio. His pro comp is Markelle Fultz or Anthony Black, because he's a long, heady point guard that is a very good defender. Some of the positives with him: he is a dog. That is the first thing that you notice on film. He has great game control. He's a very good passer. Good finisher. He has a very pretty jumper, a good looking jumper. The mechanics are there, and he is a great defender. But some of the negatives are the actual shooting itself, right? The shot doesn't actually go down a ton. He's not elite at anything. Like, he's not an elite playmaker or anything. He's not an elite athlete. He's not an elite rim finisher. He's not an elite shooter, right? But he's very good at a lot of stuff. He's a very good jack of all trades kind of guy. And he did have a meniscus injury. Now, what I do really like about him is that this kind of starts the whole identity of this club, right? Let's say you bring in a head coach, and every head coach's first priority is to get the defense in order, especially considering that this team was like 30th in a lot of defensive statistics. I think it's very smart to try to build a defensive team here in Washington, and Stefan Castle is a great piece for that. And then, you can go and look for your bigs and all that stuff in free agency or the trades or the trade market. So speaking of the trade market, I got some targets here. First up, we got Isaiah Stewart from the Detroit Pistons. Next, we have Jonathan Kuminga from the Golden State Warriors, Onyeka Okongwu from the Atlanta Hawks, and John Collins from the Utah Jazz. Also, if you would like, you could also move back. I've seen a lot of buzz about possibly trading back in the draft, using that second overall pick and moving back. So one of the trades that I'm actually going to propose here, take that second overall pick, trade it to Portland, get the 7th overall pick and the 14th overall pick. That way you get 2 more lottery picks, right? You move from 2nd to 7th, which isn't a huge deal, especially in this draft, because, there's not a huge difference between, the top pick in the draft to the 10th pick in the draft, as opposed to most years. Pick up an extra lottery pick, and this way you have 3 draft picks in this draft, which is a big thing that a lot of Wizards fans and a lot of Wizards writers and stuff are hoping that Washington does. I have a second trade. You guys are lucky because you guys are one of the only ones I'm going to be doing this with. But a second trade, this one I actually really like, and I actually proposed this on the last video as well, from the Detroit Pistons. So this would include Kyle Kuzma and possibly Corey Kispert, sent to Detroit in exchange for Isaiah Stewart and Marcus Sasser. Now, why I like this trade is because you're getting a lot younger. You're adding some good talent to this team in the way of Isaiah Stewart and Marcus Sasser. All you have to sacrifice is that Kyle Kuzma trade piece, which is a pretty big deal. But at the end of the day, I think, he's 28 years old, 29 next season. You might as well move on from him and get what you can for him. If you can pull an extra, first from Detroit, I would try it. But just the same way I told Detroit, like, it's worth a shot to try to get Corey Kispert in this deal. The same thing I would tell, Washington fans, if you can get a first out of this deal, I would try to get it as well. Next up, we're going to check out the cap situation for the Washington Wizards here. Heading into free agency, they could have up to $28 million after cutting Shamet, letting some of their unrestricted free agents walk, and, along with some other minor moves. Could also increase their flexibility if they decide to move on from Kuzma or Poole. Some possible free agent targets that Washington could be looking at in the future. You got guys like Tobias Harris, D'Angelo Russell, and Emmanuel Quickley. These are 3 guys who, bring a lot of scoring punch to the table. I think, like I said, I would try to go with identity of defense first. So, I would maybe look at some of these big guys that I have next, and that's Nicholas Claxton, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Jonas Valanciunas. Nicholas Claxton is one of my favorites for this team, one of my favorite targets for this team. If I was them, I'd be going after him hard, because I think if you are going to build a team like that, you're going to need bigs who can, move and defend the rim and protect the paint at a high level, especially if you got a guy like Bilal Coulibaly out there guarding, the premier wings of this league. And you got a guy like Stefan Castle who could potentially guard some of the elite guards in this league. You get a guy like Nicholas Claxton in there in the paint who can guard some of the better bigs in this league. You got Isaiah Hartenstein. He's another guy like that. A lot of heart, a lot of hustle. Caleb Martin, Kelly Oubre, a couple wings that, you might look at because, Caleb Martin is a very good defender and he comes from that Heat culture. He could bring some of that cultural impact in there. Kelly Oubre, he's played for Washington before and, he had a pretty good year. Same with Russell Westbrook. He played in Washington before. He had a good year here. From all accounts that I've seen, Wizards fans really liked him. So, I wouldn't be opposed to a reunion there. DeAnthony Melton, Isaac Okoro, Derek Jones Jr., these guys are all, really good wing defenders. A lot of athleticism. You're going to need that, especially with a young team like that. You're going to need that kind of potential, especially for a guy like Isaac Okoro. You don't have a ton of money, but you could use that money to try to kind of be a troll and go and try to pull some of these restricted free agents that, a lot of these teams can't afford. A guy like Isaac Okoro is, perfect for that. Maybe even Patrick Williams. My final rotation for you guys. At the end of the day, I think this is a good rotation for what I think Washington should be aiming for. I think that at the end of the year, you shouldn't necessarily be tanking because tanking implies that you're losing on purpose. But if you're not winning, I don't think it's not the worst thing in the world, because next year's draft is supposed to be a really good draft. You start at the point guard position. You got a guy at Stefan Castle, right? And as his backup, you got Marcus Sasser. Castle is a very good defender, and Sasser is a very good, offensive player. And, you could probably even play those guys together because of Castle's size. And, Sasser is not too small either. I think he's like 6'2", 6'3". Then at shooting guard, you still got Jordan Poole. I think it's worth a shot to give him another chance in Washington because he did show so much potential in Golden State. And he did show out for that second half of the year. Talk about a lack of belief in a player. We got Johnny Davis as his backup, and I get it. But listen, he is the 10th overall pick, man. You got to give him every shot you can because that is a high investment. And, to waste a draft pick like that, it sucks. So to me, I think you give Johnny every chance he can to crack this rotation. And if you have to, go into free agency and get you a guy like Okoro, get you a guy like D'Anthony Melton, somebody like that. If you look at the Nuggets, for instance, right? Just because I'm a Nuggets fan, we got Peyton Watson, but we didn't know before the season where Peyton Watson would end up. We didn't know if he was going to actually become like a legit rotation player. So what did Calvin Booth do? He went out and he got Justin Holiday. And now in the playoffs, Justin Holiday is like one of our best rotation pieces against the Timberwolves in this playoffs. So it just shows you like it's good to have that good backup plan. But, I think a guy like Johnny Davis, he has the potential to be a really good player. At that small forward position, you got Bilal Coulibaly, who I'm very high on. I love his game. And Denny Advia, another guy who's, truthfully, you could swap either of these guys as the starter. It's the NBA in 2024. Like, you can't have enough wings, right? At the power forward position, you go and you get Isaiah Stewart in that trade for Kyle Kuzma and, keep Patrick Baldwin Jr. He did a pretty good job for you guys last year. I think you give him another shot to see if he's an NBA player and if he's going to stick around in this league. As far as your free agent signing, I really hope that Washington goes and gets Nicholas Claxton. I think he could be a great fit. Like, I sang his praises when I was talking about the free agents before, but if you have a defensive set of, Stefan Castle, Bilal Coulibaly, and Nicholas Claxton protecting the paint, and he's such a good fit next to Beef Stew, right? Big guy at the power forward position who could muscle guys and rebound, and, if he has to, he could defend some of the bigger centers in the league, and you can roam Nicholas Claxton off ball, for a guy like, Jokic or Embiid, right? So, I think that's just a very good, very, very good pairing in that front court. And then you re-sign Vukcevic, who did a pretty good job for you guys as your backup center last year. He wasn't too bad. So, I think you can use him, like I said, the same thing as Patrick Baldwin Jr., give him another shot, see if he's worthy of an NBA rotation spot. Like I said, you could go out and you can use that money. And, if you save a couple bucks on Nicholas Claxton or you use your MLE, you can go and get a guy like, D'Anthony Melton or, a guard out there or a wing that, can play some more versatile roles and like kind of back up a lot of different positions. I think Washington, if anything, this is a year for you to lose, unfortunately. But, at the end of the day, it's only going to make you guys better in the long run. I think it's just time to tear it down. As Washington fans, you all know that franchise has been, hitting the retool button over and over for a decade plus now. So, I think it's time to just tear it down, reset, really build a team that you guys can grow up with. First of all, I want to say thank you guys so much for KCP and trading us KCP. That was incredible. But also, I'm a big fan of your guys' fan base. Like, I've dealt with a lot of your fans before, and I've never, ever ran into a fan base I think deserves winning more. Like, you guys are always so loyal, and you guys are smart, good basketball fans. Like, the ones I have met have all been great. They're all very helpful. They're all very knowledgeable. And you guys have suffered for long enough, man. You really have. I feel for you guys. I really do. As a Nuggets fan who grew up thinking the Nuggets will never, ever, ever in my life win anything, to get a guy like Nikola Jokic and see the team that they built around him, I just feel like, you guys deserve something like that. I've seen like the Gilbert Arenas teams, right, where they were good, but they never won. The John Wall teams, they were good, but they never won. You guys deserve a good winning team already. So I'm rooting for you guys, and I hope you guys do good from now on. And if you did enjoy this breakdown of your guys' offseason, I would really, really appreciate a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for your guys' time. I am Stephen Zamora. Follow me on Twitter at ZamoraBSB, as BSB, as in boy. And we out.